Hello and welcome to the Discover History YouTube channel, and tonight I'm going to be showing you two, what would you call it really? You could call them toys, but they were also looked upon with astonishment by adults also, because in a way what I'm going to show you is the first steps towards what we now know as film and television really, or animation is probably the more accurate word for it. Now if you go back in history, most people had only seen still images, and a perfect example of that is if you go to any art gallery up and down the country or do an image search on the internet, you will probably come up with works of art like these. And even though there are lots of artwork showing, for example, battles or showing landscapes and things like that, even though they look dramatic and you can almost sense the movement there, you don't actually get movement. And the other people as well that I find absolutely fascinating is Stone Age people, because as we know, when they used to draw on the walls of their caves, if you have a look at some of the cave drawings, for example, of reindeer or even things like horses, for example, in some cave drawings, you actually get more than 4 legs, for example. So you might have the front legs consisting of 8 legs, all very close together, and then you may have the rear legs being 8 legs very close together. And the interesting thing is, imagine a Stone Age person living in a cave, probably very early on, Paleolithic period, the old Stone Age. They've probably got a fire going inside that cave, and we know for a fact that fires, especially open fires, gives you a sense of movement anyway. So you can imagine the flickering of the flame. And if you think back to these horses and reindeer on the wall, where the legs are drawn multiple times in the flickering of light, it may actually make them look as if they're moving. I think that's fascinating. So in the past, most people would have seen still images. People tried to animate them, and in particular the Stone Age people did, and later on when you look at some paintings they almost look as if they're moving. But it's not really until the Victorian period where they start creating moving images, and this is quite fascinating. Now in 1865, after lots and lots of experimentation by many people, they came up with this machine here, which is known as a Zoetrobe. And I don't know if anyone's ever seen one before. Now, this one specifically was designed by a man called William Ensign Lincoln. And he actually went into partnership with another man called Milton Bradley. And they actually produced a relatively cheap tin toy. And this is it. This isn't an original one, but this is a replica version of it. And the interesting thing about a Zoetrobe is it keeps a static picture and it places it within a cylinder, within a drum, and because the drawing is slightly different on each image, when it's placed in this with slits in it, it does actually make the picture look as if it's moving. And as I said, you've probably seen one of these before. They were very popular from the 1860s onwards by very wealthy school children or very wealthy children that were living in their homes with a nursery, for example. These would be quite common in there. But you also had adults that loved these as well, because it was the first time a still image had actually become moving. Now, like I said, it relates to having a simple drawing done multiple times. So if I hold it there, you will see how the changes are. There's slight subtle changes, and in a way this is what animation is. But by the Victorian period this was relatively new. Like I said, there was lots of other people developing these type of machines really, and there are some very intricate ones, but this is the first type that was usable by children and adults within their home as such really. Now, because you're looking through the little slots around the side here that are actually above the image, when you look at an angle downwards and you give it a spin, the still image, because it's moving multiple times through a slit, does actually make it look as if it's moving. Now, I'm not sure how this is going to work on the camera, but hopefully you might see it. Now, let me just get the correct direction, because we don't want the tiger in this case running backwards. There we go. So hopefully you can see it. So if I give it a little turn, I'm not sure if you can see that image there. Hopefully you can. I don't know if I've got it at the right angle. There we go. There we go. Hopefully you can see it. But all it is turning a static image that people would have seen all over the place really into a moving image. And in a way, that's the first steps into animation, the first steps into what we now call film and television. But eventually a Frenchman came along, and the Frenchman was Emile Reynard, and he invented this one. Now, this is very similar to the Zoetrobe, but this is a Praxonoscope, and the way it works is you have multiple mirrors on the internal drum just of here, and then this time your picture is placed inside the outer drum. And the way this works is the mirror image, once again a drawing changed very slightly, is then reversed in a way. You get the mirror reflection onto the mirrors around this side, and because they're angular, it actually makes the picture look as if it's moving. Now hopefully this will work again. So it's getting the right angle, unfortunately, when we're on a camera or on a phone. So I'll give it a little turn and hopefully you will see this one work. And this is a man that switches heads. He keeps moving his heads around. I don't know if you can see that one. There we go. It's quite entertaining. But like I said, this was almost magical at the time. But these two machines, like I said, one from about the 1860s, one from the 1870s, was starting to turn still images into moving images. There was lots of other things that people were doing. For example, people had created flick books, for example. They were quite cheap, or relatively cheap, by the 1880s, 1890s, that children often used to buy. You can still buy them today, for example. And you can even make one today. If you get some scrap paper, or if you've got a little notebook, if you take the one corner specifically and draw a little picture, then turn over the page and draw another little picture and another little picture, but alter them very, very slightly. When you flick through really, really fast, each image will actually become a moving picture. Bit of advice, try and keep it simple. If you make a very detailed drawing, what you have to remember is you are doing that multiple times. There's no point in doing it for about 3 or 4 pages. You need multiple times, and therefore keep it simple. The best thing to do is have a little stick man and maybe have it so he lifts his head off and puts it back on. So that's relatively simple because it's the same image, just altered slightly, or altered twice really in repetition. So one with the head on, one without head on, one with the head on, one without the head on. And that creates your animation really. But like I said, Stone Age people always wanted to make still images move, and that's why we have cave drawings with horses and that with multiple legs, not just 4. And obviously some works of art do actually look as if they're moving. Now, war art is something that I've looked at in great detail over the years. It's one of the things that I actually studied, and obviously one of my favourite paintings has to be one by Lady Butler, and that is the famous one of the Scots Greys at Waterloo. And obviously this is one that Ian would probably get excited about, and you've only got to look at that. By the way it's painted, you see a vast amount of movement there. It's almost as if you are stood there seeing these horses charging towards you and about to run you down. But like I said, it's only when you get things like the flick books, the Zoetrobe and the Praxonoscope, it's only when you get these do you actually start seeing moving images. We also know that some of these were projected, so sometimes they put lenses in front of them, and obviously they lit them by oil lamps and also later on gas lamps, and they could project these images onto the wall. People also had things such as the magic lantern, and if you had gone to any town or city in the Victorian period, or even on the end of a pier at the seaside, it was quite common to go and see something like a magic lantern show. And the way they work is you have lots and lots of glass plates with images on. These could be slotted in multiple layers, so you could have one scene then another scene slotted in front. And for example, they often had musical accompaniment, or you would have someone talking about the slides that would be going up, and they were quite magical. If you can imagine, and these are some that I've seen in the past, you could have a glass plate which has water on it. You could then have a glass plate with a ship on it, and they would slide the ship glass plate in front or behind, I should say, the waves or the water, the sea, and it will look as if a ship's moving from left to right or right to left. And then you could do the same with another glass plate showing clouds coming over, and they often had all sorts of sound effects as well. You would have people shaking a piece of metal, for example, and that would sound like thunder, and you would have people dropping beads or something like that onto a tray, so it sounded like rain, and you would get these moving images for the first time. And then famously, as time went by, we start getting animation, and then eventually, and this is a video in its own right really, you then start getting proper film as such, really, television, and then obviously the films today. And I always think it's fascinating. We can take for granted today switching on the television or putting on a DVD or even going to the cinema when lockdown finishes, and we will just sit there and actually absorb the film or absorb the television program without actually thinking where it came from. And as I always say, it's interesting to see things, it's interesting to pick up things, but where does it actually stem from? Why are things like they are? How do they work? Where is the history behind that individual object? Anyway, it was a bit of a shorter video today, but hopefully that's shown you some exciting things, exciting developments in the Victorian era. And remember, make sure you subscribe. And please let us know what you would like to see in the future. We have got a bit of a list going, and we'll do those over time. And remember, we cover any age from Stone Age to 1950s. So if it goes into that bracket, ask for a video on it. And as you know, if you go on our website, www.discover-history.co.uk, you can see that we offer all sorts of things. We can do videos on pretty much anything from medicine, military history, social history, food and drink, all sorts of things really. We're very, very multifaceted. Anyway, on that note, stay safe, stay in, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye.